So welcome everybody. Good evening. I am Brigitte Warren, the Oakland Mills Village Manager, and I'm pleased to welcome you to Oakland Mills Community Association's Candidates Forum. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone who is here both at the other barn and over Zoom for joining us. This is our first hybrid meeting at the other barn, and we have done many run-throughs. But for those of you at home, please bear with us if something should go awry. It's certainly not on purpose. I'd like to go over the basic rules of tonight's forum. First, as I said, I'll go over the rules. Then our election chairs, Bob Bartolo and Bob Burlett, will give some opening remarks. And then from there, we will proceed on to the actual forum. The candidates will be able to give opening remarks, and their opening remarks will be 2 minutes long, followed by a Q&A session and closing remarks. Due to the forum's limited time frame, we will take questions from Oakland Mills residents only. Those that are at the other barn are asked to raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. Those attending virtually can add their name to the chat box, which is being monitored, and we will call on you. Please do not put any other conversation in the chat box, just your name and if you would like to ask a question. For those of you at the other barn, when you're called on to ask your question, if you could come up to where the yellow piece of tape is on the floor, ask your questions very loudly and clearly. That will allow everyone at home to see what's going on. For those of you who are at home, when it is time for you to ask your question, we will unmute your mic, and if you could state it loud and clear, hopefully we will be able to hear it here as well. If not, we will repeat the question. Both candidates will have the opportunity to answer each question, providing a 2-minute response to the questions. If there is a follow-up to the candidate's response, there will be a 1-minute reply. Candidates will be giving responses in alternating order. After the Q&A, candidates will provide closing remarks. The following are the candidates for the Columbia Council: Amy Brooks and Karen Emery. I'd like to thank Amy Carpenter, who will serve as timekeeper tonight and who was very good about setting up all the equipment and knowing what to do. I'd also like to thank Sandy Cedarbaum, who has graciously come back to help us and assist with the chat box and Q&A this evening. And of course, I'd like to thank our election monitor chairs, Bob Bartolo and Bob Burlett. Please note that everyone that is attending virtually must mute their mics and remain muted until you provide a question during the Q&A part of the forum. I hope that everything goes well, and keep our fingers crossed. We'll all be able to see everything. Thank you again for coming.
Well, I'd also like to welcome everybody. This is a great turnout, both in person and online. Bob and I have been doing this for like 15 years, and it changes every year. But this is the most high-tech version that I've ever seen. I am even confused by it. But anyway, after all these years working with Sandy and now with Regina, I can assure you that you're in good hands. They've been working very, very hard, practicing and dry runs and rehearsals, so this can happen. So it's really just a lot of work goes into it. There's a lot of like, don't speak.
Bob Burlett, I got on the election monitor committee in '79, and they won't let me on. Except for 3 years when I was on the village board. So I had to get off of the election monitor committee when I was on there in '83, '84, and '85. But this is where you're supposed to give back. So everybody in or out of it, keep your finger in the pie because it's a great village.
Okay, so now we will begin. Amy, are you ready? Okay,
Hey.
I'm sorry, I'm going
so
first.
you will be able to go first, yes.
Is this our microphone? Should we move it closer?
It's on.
No, it should be
Okay.
fine, yes.
Hi, I'm Amy Brooks. I hope you can hear me at home. I teach at Oakland Mills High School, and I have 3 boys, Alonzo, Malcolm, and Kai, who have all gone through our school system. They started at Talbot, one went to Stevens Forest for a minute, and Malcolm is at the high school, and Alonzo is now at Towson University. We originally lived in Baltimore when we first started our family, and my husband said to me, I really want to raise our kids where I grew up. And I said, I want to show you. And so we came to Oakland Mills specifically, where he graduated from high school in 1992. And he showed me all around, and I joke to this day, that's the one major argument he won in our marriage. He completely wowed me. I'm a total convert. I've been a proud homeowner, multiple homes in this area. And when I went to start teaching, I was in Baltimore City, but I then moved out here to Lake Elkhorn Middle School. And we said, we want to be back in Oakland Mills. And we now have a house on Kilimanjaro. It's really important to me and my husband that our children are raised in this community. They're very active in the Tiger Sharks. They are swim instructors, they're lifeguards. My youngest goes to the skating rink every Friday. I am very invested, not only because I'm a parent, but because I teach your children. I've been teaching for over 22 years, and I'm getting older, they're not. I get to hear all of their concerns, and I am a voice of advocacy for the next generation, as well as their parents and all of their neighbors. Thank you. It's been so nice to be invited to this forum.
Thank you very much for setting up the forum. I understand you guys put in a lot of hard work, and I appreciate that. So thank you. And thank you to everyone for coming today. My name is Karen Emery. I'm your neighbor on Thunder Hill Road. I'm running to be your representative of the Columbia Association Board, and I'm asking for your vote. As your elected representative, I will work hard to ensure that residents and the amenities that make our community such a wonderful place to live are the #1 priority in all my decision-making. With more than 100,000 residents now living in Columbia, representation on the CA board has never been more important. Transparency of decision-making by the board and CA is a critical element of our community's future. Developers and other corporate interests see Columbia as a place where they can make huge profits at the expense of our residents, and have even made attempts to take over the CA board to serve their own self-interests. CA staff is not obligated to inform residents when it makes changes to CA property or grants access to for-profit organizations through contracts, licenses, settlements. A CA board made up of members beholden to these developers can ignore residents' needs with impunity. At stake is the protection of our 3,600 acres of open space, including the paths, tot lots, streams, ponds, and surrounding forest. As a member of the board, I will ensure that before CA and the board engage in any large transformative projects, residents will be informed of these proposals and have the opportunity to speak up during public hearings. When CA staff want to grant access to some of our downtown properties, such as the pavilion at the lake, I'll be there to make sure residents are informed and that they are the main beneficiary. I'm excited that Oakland Mills has been selected as the pilot program to reimagine our tot lots. I believe that can be a model for how our community works going forward. Professionally, I'm an IT program manager. I manage multi-million-dollar budgets, I hire contractors, and I want to thank you very much for coming tonight and looking forward to answering all your questions. Thanks for your time.
Any questions or comments? Anybody? Lady in pink dress?
Hi, I'm Sue. You and I live in Thunder Hill, and I am a Columbia Association weed warrior. I know that open space has a commitment and a plan to deal with invasive vines that are invasive vines that are ruining our native trees. And I want to know, and that's for open space. And what I want to know is what can CA do for homeowner property as far as the same issue?
Who wants to go first?
So we have picked. Who goes the first question?
Me. Oh,
Hey.
sorry.
Second category.
Winner is Caitlin.
Oh, okay. So thank you for the question. The idea of addressing weeds on private property in the same way that we do in public spaces. Is that fair? Okay. So I know I started Oakland Mills Online and with Jessica Mahajan and a bunch of other parents in our community when the school buildings closed. This was 3 years ago now, and we started a Weed Warrior walking program where we were training more people. I know a lot of people have already been trained as weed warriors, and they meet up in public spaces and pull weeds together. So I think the first part, I'm always team educate, is that we make it fun and interesting for more people to feel empowered to identify what are weeds and what are not weeds, so that you can make good choices. The second is anytime we're selling anything on CA grounds or in any of our local nurseries, we need to start noting if they are in fact invasive or if they are something that is safe for our community. And there are lots of different ways that we can do this when we sell plants here or when we have giveaways, and we're already doing that. So I think it's important for that to be standardized and never to go back on that. In addition, I think that we have a lot of grant programs already to help with rainwater and help with other things on private property so that people can take the initiative when maybe they're a little overwhelmed. So with guidance and funding, if that could be a possibility, I think a lot of folks would feel empowered to take action that's harmful to the weeds, but not the rest of their property or to any of the animals that live in our backyards. So I don't know if did I kind of answer? I think it's a multi-pronged approach because we have so much greenery in our communities. We want to be mindful of the steps that we take. So we preserve the natural environment while also cutting down on invasive species that are killing all of our local plants. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, I believe you specifically wanted to know what CA could do to help with this, to help with the weeds and on private property. That's what you're looking for?
Yes, because open space is already addressing
Right.
open space.
Right. So I think that the grants program is probably one of the best things that we can look at and talk about with the interim CEO, Dennis Matty, to talk about what would be available for residents as far as controlling their own weeds. CA isn't really allowed to touch private property, but the rain garden program is an excellent program. If anybody wants to take advantage of that still, and it expires, I believe, in another month or so. So if you'd like to have a rain garden, that's something that they can do. But I don't believe that weeds are on their list right now, but it's certainly something that we can bring.
I already went.
And Karen will
go next.
Okay, sure.
Hi, my name's Tammy Spanger in Thunder Hill. Thank you both for running and bringing all these issues forward. Appreciate you taking the time for the community. And Karen, you mentioned transparency. That's the line of my questioning. I'm wondering what each of you would do if the CEO of CA made deals without informing you. Like, how would you hold them accountable and how would you demand some transparency from the CEO of CA?
Thank you very much for the question, Tammy. So I think that transparency is critically important. I think that one of the things that the new board needs to do is when they look to hire a new CEO is they need to build transparency into the job description so that there is an accountability that's already built into the job that they do. I also think that the board needs to understand what its power is in asking for information and knowing when it's not getting the full story. And that's how I would handle that. And working with Dennis, I know I still have time. I'm sorry, Amy, to do this to you, but Dennis has been pretty great so far, the interim CEO. He's been forming partnerships with the existing board. He's been attending village board meetings, which has been great, learning more. And I also think that he's allowing the board to talk to staff, which they weren't allowed to do for a while. So this has been a fantastic turn, and I really look forward to working with him in the future. Thank you.
Okay, it's a good question because I think transparency is one of the main reasons why I decided to run. As many of you know, I just ran for delegate and I was still coming off of that and it was a lot of work and I did make it through the primary, but I won a lot of votes and connected with a lot of people and I think that's a hugely important learning opportunity. But then when I was watching what was happening on the CA board and the lack of transparency from our board members and drove the people saying, what's happening? Why aren't we getting answers? And attending the meeting along with countless people from our community saying, can you please tell us what's going on? When the president CEO said, can you please tell me if I have job security? And the board time and time again refused to respond. I'm concerned about the board that we had. That's why I'm running. I feel like we had a lot of information that came from the staff. There were a lot of staff members who spoke out about the transparency and the hard work that they were doing. There was one group, the current CA board, that continued to undermine the efforts of the wonderful CA staff that was carrying the weight of an almost $80 million budget in an institution that was benefiting so many people. So it's ironic to me that we're bringing up transparency and that my opponent is being endorsed by the co-chair of the board that many people felt was not transparent. I feel like I've been an open book my whole career as a public school teacher. You can find out anything about me. And I am with children all day, every day, and talking to their parents. I can come with one promise to you. I'm who you see. I'm consistently that person. I'm going to always advocate for open communication, not secret closed doors meetings that don't even get reported when they're supposed to be reported. And I will not be reaching out to outside counsel to spend our assessment money in the tens of thousands of dollars. Thank you.
When we bought property in I'm from Thunderhill, and when we bought property back in the 90s, one of the things that I considered was that it wasn't just our lot that we were buying, but it was all of the things that were jointly owned through the association, all of the green space. So it isn't just the facilities and the maintenance and the taxes, but it's all that history that we bought into. And then, of course, we paid a lot of taxes through the years. And so I feel it's really important that we have a board member that can sort of take care of our property that we as individuals don't take control of, but for our interests. And I think when I look at the situation where the CEO was making deals that the board didn't know about, to me, that seems to be a problem. It seems like we elect people, those elected people have to be able to know what deals are being made. So apparently they sold or rented property that the CA controls to a new developer or developer that's been operating here, but for below the market price, below the previous price, and it was quite a bit of property. So we're talking about Clyde's, the area around Clyde's. Can you speak to that? What should the board do in a case like that where they don't even get access to the information from the CEO?
You forget it's trying to me again. Yeah, I've read a very long blog post about this conspiracy theory. And while I respect the fact that people can write a blog and say whatever they want, I think it's important that we have checks and balances, not only within our staff, but also on the CA board. And so the fact that we had to find out about this through this backhanded blog post is very confusing to me. Again, I know that we have a very comprehensive staff and they have things within their jurisdiction, including renting property. The fact that people have assessed it as lower than market rate is also frustrating to me after COVID. Clyde's has been empty. I'm not an expert on this, but even just using logic, we're filling something that has been vacant, as many of us have known, for a long time. I think it's really important that when we have a nationwide search and many of the people on the current board elect someone, that we also entrust them to do their job and not micromanage them. So there's a fine line. I think accountability is of course critical, but I'm also very wary of dipping into every kind of Fox News story that I hear talking about someone who is doing their job. So Of course, as a board, there are 10 of us. We're all going to be working together. We're all going to be bringing up any ethics violations or anything that we think is, quite frankly, illegal, which is not totally what's been implied, but unethical. And then, unlike our current board, actually enforce an ethics policy. I think it's critical that when board members are unethical, that they're not allowed to run again. They're not allowed to sit on the board. They're not allowed to vote for their own interests and other boards that they serve on that directly conflict with the finances that other people don't have access to. There's definitely a complex, adult, nuanced conversation to be had. I wish we were having it before now.
Okay, so I think the facts need to be put out on the table here. First of all, residents were very concerned about what was going on at the lakefront. And they are the ones who put in, it's not a FOIA request, but it's a similar to a FOIA request where you can request information from your HOA. So they wanted to know what had happened with the property that is in front of what used to be Clyde's. And they saw the contract. And what they realized that our president had entered into a contract for more a property than Clyde's had ever leased and for 1/6 the price. And there's no rent increase built into that contract at all. That is a very valuable property, whether it had been vacant or not. Our governor just stood down at that property this last week and said, this is the most desirable place in Columbia for us to put this brand new library. How is it possible that we gave that away at the most desirable location in Columbia? I find that shocking. At a time when the Columbia Association was struggling during the pandemic financially, when it was an opportunity for us to bring in some revenue, we totally blew the pooch.
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
State your name.
Please.
Catherine Schatz. And this is, do I say who it's addressed to or just both? Both.
Both.
Both, okay. Karen and Amy, what experience do you have in analyzing large budgets, as well as hiring consultants to work on large initiatives? And then more importantly, managing the outcomes of those initiatives. I've been self-employed all my life, and experience in multi-billion dollar budgets matters to me. It's really important that you have that.
Thank you very much for the question, Catherine. I'm an IT program manager professionally in my day job. And one of the things I have to do is manage multi-million dollar budgets. And we also have to hire consultants, contractors to come in and do work for us. And then we have to also manage those outcomes. And right now I'm working in the financial industry, but previously I worked in the health insurance industry. I was part of implementing the health insurance exchanges on the side of the health insurance carriers. When we had to bring in a ton of people, we were managing all kinds of different things. And I won't go into everything in Obamacare, but it was a massive undertaking. So I do have that experience. I think we were very successful at what we did. And now I do that in the financial industry.
This is a great question. And I think I want to give Karen her props, but also recognize that she's part of a team. And as a teacher at my school, as a member of the UUCC Board of Trustees and other organizations like the Oakland Mills PTSA, you know, I'm going to either be a teacher who is working in our public schools, or I'm in a large corporate organization. I mean, there has to be some acknowledgement that we're not all going to come in with the same skill sets. But I'm so grateful that all 10 villages come together and get to collaborate. I'm a smart person who can listen and learn, just like I have through my entire career. I've recently worked on getting over $150 million in deferred maintenance back into the conversation for Howard County Public Schools. It's a really big deal with really big numbers, and it doesn't take an advanced degree in economics or accounting to know that you are going to follow the guidance of the accountants who do this for their full-time job. You're going to seek counsel from the lawyers who are on the team, and you're also going to be working with the community. So a lot of the budget decisions are based on the priorities, the mission and vision of the board. We are not tasked with running a business or running CA. And I want to be clear, that's not what I'm running for. I cannot run CA, and I'm not going to lie to you and say that I can. Instead, I want to represent Oakland Mills in rooms where important conversations are being had about where we want to move forward. So I will not be rebuilding Oakland Mills Middle School and Oakland Mills High School over the next 5 to 7 years. I will be holding pressure on the superintendent and everybody in central office of Howard County Public Schools to make sure that's built. The architects are hired, the budgets are all fully funded, and that the construction actually happens. That's the advocacy that I bring as a public school teacher into this space. Thank you.
Gentleman in the back.
Hi, I'm Frank Easton. I'm from Stevens Forest. And I want to piggyback on the last discussion about the role of the board and the role of the CEO. While both of those have the same goals for governing an organization, the board is about governing and the CEO is about management. And so the question that was asked about managing budgets, I think that comes from the CEO and their staff. And so I just would like to ask both candidates, if you were on the board, how would you help clarify the role between the board, which is about governing, and the CEO, which is about managing?
Thank you very much for your question. So I think that's important because the board sets the strategy. The board sets the board.
It's okay.
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry, Amy. Did
I
I
don't
take your turn?
care.
I thought it was your. I apologize.
Because you end up
I
going
was
twice
super
every
excited.
time.
Do
you want me to-
twice?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, so anyway, the board sets the strategy, they set the goals, and they want to make sure that the CEO is in alignment with that. The president is aligning to those goals. But they also have a huge role in oversight, and that's where I think the transparency of the activities that are going on with the president. I do think that we need to make sure that, as I said in my opening statement, we need to have more public input into the processes before the president manages. If we're going to do a stream restoration project, if we're going to have a settlement, if we're going to sign a contract for a very high value piece of property, I think there should be some input about what the residents actually want. And then the president can go and do their job. And I think also it's about having a real working partnership with that president, which I'm not sure existed until recently.
So I'm going to answer this question first. Thanks, everybody. So I think Frank asked a really important question because the lines have gotten blurred. And one of the first things I have been asking folks is, what is the tradition in terms of training? And even when we had a board of directors information session, Eric Greenberg couldn't really answer that. He's like, I'm sure we'll do something. I think it's critically important that all parties are on the same page, and that's equally communicated to the community. It is not the role of someone like me or a board of directors person to say that what our staff is doing is wrong or what I am doing as someone on the board of directors is always right. I think the community should know where that line is. So there's, I think, room for a refresher for all of us to really understand that. So boards in general, we all know, should be in the role of governance and making sure all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. And they're also supposed to be liaisons with the community and from the community. These should be representatives who already have their finger on the pulse. They don't have to go out and find community members. They're everywhere. Everybody, every organization I'm involved in, every student, parent, everybody I talk to on the swim team, they're constantly telling me what their needs and wants are. But you know what's critically important is having the community speak out and then having the board members listen to people. I can't tell you how frustrating it's been to go to community speak outs and not feel like you're being heard, or maybe heard and ignored. So moving forward, I think the board needs to be a welcoming place for the community to come and air grievances to come, ask questions, give suggestions. I think the board is tasked with keeping our organization both fiscally focused, but also dynamic and evolving. We can't do the same things we've always done because our community continues to grow and evolve for the better. So as a board member, I understand what my role is in order to support the institution of the Columbia Association, not to micromanage anybody on staff. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, maybe you go first.
I'm not as concerned about your experience with budget as I am with your community involvement. Hi, my name is Lena Kennedy. I'm with Stevens Forest. I have 2 kids that are in the school system. I am the PTSA president of middle school, but I'm here in my own role, personal. More than the budget, I'm concerned about community involvement, specifically in Oakland Mills as a community that's often misrepresented and misunderstood. It's important to me that there are connections, and I would like to hear how both of you have made these connections in Oakland Mills over the last 5 years. And I will say, for the budget, I thank Mr. Easton for pointing that out. I sit on the operating budget review committee for the school system. I've been on there for 5 years. It's $1 billion budget, and we all, we can all figure out where the values are in the budget. And really, I think that's the role of the CA board, to set the values. Your budget is your values in action. So I'm more interested in how you would steer the values of the budget. Like, do you think $200,000 for the Inner Harbor Trust is better than $200,000 to move our pools forward instead of being stagnant? So I would like to know how you have been involved in the Oakland Mills community, advocating groups you've been part of, as well as your thoughts on the values of the budget.
I don't even remember who she said this first.
You go.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the organization. So through our school system, I've been able to sponsor the GSA, that's a Gender Sexuality Alliance. We hosted the first Pride. We worked with the Pride Festival. I've been a liaison with Carrie, that's an important LGBTQ organization. I'm the proud sponsor of the Oakland Mills High School Book Club. I have been supporting our GSA in a variety of ways outside of our school, literally. I'm the one that raised the money and organized the outdoor classroom that can be utilized by the community at any time. We raised those funds from the OMCA grant program, in addition to thousands and thousands of dollars from people who live in Oakland Mills. I've also raised funds for headphones and speakers for teachers when our students couldn't hear us when we were doing hybrid learning, or when they were using their computers in class or at home and they couldn't hear themselves because they have so many different family members. As an ESOL teacher, I advocate for my students who are learning English for the first time. I've worked with our Eagle Scouts to build 2 additional outdoor classrooms, and I raised additional funds so we could have outdoor eating areas, which very few high schools have. I'm a proud member of the OMCA Education Committee, where I've been keeping this organization abreast of any of the inside scoop I can. They know how best to help our kids. I'm a proud former president of the OMMS PTSA. That was too many letters. Oakland Mills Middle School parent teacher organization. I'm also a proud Tiger Sharks mom, and I previously mentioned I was on the UUCC, Unitarian Universalist Church Community Board of Trustees. Let's see what else. I should have brought a list, but at the end of the day, I'm so proud of the fact that I've been in so many different groups. I'm never in a bubble. There are lots of overlaps, because if you live in this area for any amount of time, you understand it's about 2 degrees of separation from everybody. So I know you from your kid or from some other group I'm a part of. Thank you for that question. I don't think I answered the second part though.
No, I think it's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So I'm involved in the Oakland Mills local leadership team, and I'm really pleased that I can offer some services to them. They've asked us in our efforts to build community what you can offer. And because I work in the professional world, I said I could do networking, because that's one of my favorite things to do, is to go around talking to people and find out what they think. And I've just built a lot of great relationships that way. What I've also done is about a year or so ago, they wanted to put bike lanes on Thunderhill Road, and all of our houses are up against that road, and it would have caused a hardship for many of our neighbors. So I organized our neighbors together to make sure we retained our street parking. And previous to that, before I even lived in Oakland Mills, before I moved back in with my parents, I walked around doors in Thunder Hill getting signatures for the speed humps that made our street so much safer. Before that, some of my community involvement has been on a much broader scale. One of the things that's critical to me is getting money out of politics. So I worked really, really hard with a group of people last year, because I think this serves all communities, Oakland Mills especially, is to make sure that all of our politicians are answerable just to their voters, that's who they place first. That's why I'm running here, because I want to make sure the residents are placed first. So we created the No Developer, No Dark Money Pledge. We got 30 politicians to sign that. Several of them got elected. A couple of them sit on the county council, and I'm really proud of that. Before that, I worked in animal rescue, and I helped people adopt dogs. I was a soccer coach for SAC for many, many years. And in a previous life, when I was much younger, I was a lifeguard, and I managed the pool as a swim coach for CA. I was a CA employee. So, and that's time. So I'm sorry, Lena, I can't answer your question about the budgets, but I will keep the pools open, because those are a high priority to everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, before you start talking.
Excuse me one moment.
Yes.
Just if you have your phones on, if you could
I
just
just turned.
shut them off
Sorry,
and
I'm
mute them. No, that's
Yeah,
okay.
but you're not probably the only one.
I kind of
My
know for,
friend just
make
called
sure
me.
that's
I didn't tell her I couldn't talk right now. I'm sorry. I'm Pat Gilroy. I live in Thunder Hill, right off Thunder Hill Road. There seem to be 3 entities in CA. There's a CA board, there's a CA CEO, and there's CA staff. I would like to know, what is the function of CA staff, if we already know what the other 2 functions are? Or maybe we don't for sure know what the other 2 functions are. But anyway, I'd like to know what all 3
I think I'm-
things are. Thank you.
So a lot of the staff in the summertime are lifeguards, maintenance. They take care of, you'll see them sometimes, at Thunder Hill Road, we just had that, they built up that wall next to the creek. They do things like that. They maintain our open spaces. They are working on our tot lots. They maintain our pools. In addition to that, they work at our gyms. They work in the CA office itself, managing memberships. I mean, there's a long list of all the things that the staff does at CA. We also have obviously just regular staff like HR, a CFO. There's the aquatics division. There's the open space. I don't think it's called open space, but there's the open space division. But there's a lot of different things that go into taking care of CA property. Obviously, there's legal and there's IT. So when we talk about CA staff, it's a company. CA is it's a company, even though it's a 501c4, it's a social welfare organization. It's run like a company.
I feel like Karen answered like all of that. That was like all of the things. So I would like to talk about who comprises a lot of our staff. And I have birthed a few of them, although I have not been a member of the CA staff myself. I also encourage a lot of my students to apply for jobs. I recently testified, I think early fall actually, about some concerns I have about being so dependent on our teenagers while not including parents. So as a parent of staff members, it can be very challenging to onboard a 15-year-old who does not use email. If you're not sure what I mean, a lot of our kids don't use email. They have it through their school system, and then everything else is text, QR codes, etc. So I would like us to also keep in mind that the kids are running the places, all of the places. They're running the ice skating rink, they're running the gyms. If we continue to lose students who are working part-time during the summer, we will not have the wonderful CA that we have. And I know personally of many students who quit because of the working conditions. So moving forward, I think it needs to be a priority, a human rights priority. I've had a kid work every day for like 4 weeks straight. that we are moving forward with the parents, just like I do as a teacher. I communicate with my freshman and my sophomore parents on a regular basis, especially when there's a serious concern. We facilitate trainings and have safety at the forefront. And we make sure all of our pools are fully staffed with the students who are applying for these positions. The HR communication is potentially could be improved. And I think that would also help keep our pools open, because we kind of close pools and blame it on staffing. I think that the staffing question is really relevant here, because we need to say, who is the staff? And there are kids and our grandkids. And we need to make sure that they are in a good working condition. And the CEO, that's their main job.
Bill? Hi, my name is Bill McCormack Jr. I live in Stevens Forest. The question will be, what are your thoughts on the following statement? Here's the statement. In recent CA recollections, powers that be put up a great deal of money supporting specific candidates. I ask myself, why? My answer is that CA possesses 3,600 acres of open space. Some open space is in floodplains and on steep slope and can't be built on. A significant amount of open space is buildable. I feel the powers that be want to gain control of the CA board to have the board vote to develop open space. Powers that be can make hundreds of millions of dollars building an open space. What are your thoughts on my statement? So I started with the question, did the statement end with the question? What are your thoughts on my statement?
You're first.
Me? Okay. I always get a little wary when we're talking about powers that be, because I don't necessarily want to perpetuate rumors. I don't know if we're talking about the Rouse project or not. I mean, I know people who ran in the last race who are some of the most ethical, wonderful people I know. So I feel like it's slanderous to kind of conjecture, you know, where we're going with this. I will speak about myself. So I have only ever accepted individual donations from individuals. If I'm being totally transparent, I got one check for $1,000 from my mother and my now deceased father for my delegate race. And then I got one check from my old friend who's wanted me to run for office forever and her wife. Everybody else was an average of like $40. I got checks for $5 up to $100, which was like, woo woo. And the same thing this time. If you see my finances, all of them are small. All of them are people that use CA facilities, properties, paths, pools, etc. They're very invested in having people on the board who will let the staff run this organization, who will pass ethics policies, who will make sure that everything a board is supposed to be doing gets done. So in terms of the powers that be, I don't know who they are. I am beholden to no one. I do pay a mortgage, so I am very invested in my property value. And I don't know, I mean, I want this to be a great place for my kids. I want our tot lots to stay where they are and maybe even improve or add more, because we literally planned our family walks based on where the tot lots were. We would make sure that we hit all of our favorite tot lots, or we would plan our whole weekends around going to play putt-putt, mini golf, or going to the batting cages. So I am very invested in this continuing to be a healthy space for people to raise their kids.
No, Karen gets.
Yeah. So I think that's a very important point that you made, Bill. And one of the reasons that I worked so hard last year on that no developer, no dark money pledge is I think that corporations, and in most counties across the nation, it's developers, have an outside influence on what happens in our elections. So Amy accepted close to $1,000 from lobbyists, for the registered lobbyists for the Howard Hughes Corporation for her state delegate campaign. It's very easy to find the information. You go after her campaign disclosures and see that Greg Fitchett, the president of Howard Hughes, gave her a $250 donation. Damian O'Doherty gave her a $500 donation. She is now using signs and giving out T-shirts. I'm assuming that T-shirt isn't new. And a website that were paid for by that campaign. And she has not disclosed on her form an in-kind donation from that campaign. So that disclosure has not happened. So when we're talking about transparency, money is a corrupting influence. There's nobody who doesn't think Citizens United was a bad decision. Everybody understands on this level how money corrupts politics. It does the same thing at the local level. Take a little, take a lot. That is not what you want your politicians to be doing. If Greg Fitchett calls and a resident calls and leave messages, who's going to get the call back first? If it's me, you're going to get the call back from me first. Okay, I'm going to call the resident. I'm going to find out what the resident wants. Greg Fitchett can wait. I want to make sure our residents are kept whole. So I thank you for the question. I know that's hard to listen to, but money, we have to get money out of politics. Otherwise we'll, everything you love, this inclusive community, it'll be gone.
Amy, on the response.
You want, I can, that's untrue. So I didn't say anything that was untrue. I have friends in a lot of different spaces and circles. I had a parent design my website and she didn't change anything except swap out some text. We bought stickers and put them over the t-shirts. I mean, I felt like I was being a very frugal teacher and mom. I didn't raise that much money because donations are small. It's hard for me when people are lying to know what to do, how to respond. But at the end of the day, we all live in this community together. So if you're a lawyer, is your money bad? I mean, she aligns with people who are anti-development, who are against affordable housing. I am very much for affordable housing, even if we can't have it here because we already have so much. Other villages should carry their weight too and have affordable housing. I'm very excited to have the 7-Eleven developed and the Second Chance developed. So.
Hi, Judy Thomas, Stevens Forest. Just to deal with this current issue, and then I have a question on easements. If anybody want to look at the financial disclosure, it's very clear that in the last campaign, what the contributions were from Howard Hughes. So we can not Howard Hughes.
That's not
Howard
Howard
Hughes lobbyist from Howard Hughes.
The president of Howard Hughes and their staff. And consultants, okay. All right, may I move on to?
People back there would like to stop.
May I move on to the other?
I want to ask everyone to
Yeah,
stop talking.
yeah, so we can hear the question.
I'm sorry, okay. So my question, what I was hearing was that CA has a role to support getting businesses downtown. It's a good thing. And yes, businesses coming downtown is a good thing. But I think do you feel that CA's role or Howard Hughes' role to be subsidizing the business? The second question is, we have, the CA board has had a lot of easement requests from Howard Hughes, and that will continue downtown at the lakefront, no question about it. So if you've received funds from individuals that happen to be working or consulting for Howard Hughes for a previous campaign and are using the same signs that were paid by that campaign and maybe other things in this campaign, but not disclosing them, is there any concern that you may not be as open and transparent and respect the value of the land down there, which is precious, and perhaps do what happened already and give away the land to a private sector profit organization at a reduced rate without a public hearing? And without having a public hearing, that to me is unconscionable. That's what's been happening with both Symphony of Lights and with the lakefront. And that is the worst thing that could be happening, and that has to change. So do you have an opinion on that?
I'll answer first. Yeah, my opinion is those shouldn't have happened. My opinion is that the board should have had better oversight. The president should have been more forthcoming, and the residents should have been kept whole. I mean, do we like CA or not? Do we just want to disband CA? I don't think we do. I think that's why we're here. But we should get full value for those properties. That's really important. It's important for our residents. It's important for CA for the future. So yeah, I don't have to worry about Howard Hughes. I've never taken any money from them.
Nor have I. I appreciate that fear mongering works. Again, Fox News is a very effective way to spread things that are not true. All of my donations are public record. People are allowed to donate to campaigns. I do not do background checks on everyone, and they are my friends and people in the community who wanted me to be in an elected position. I think it's ironic that Karen is part of an organization that enjoys that process, who is on the slate that takes thousands and thousands of dollars. You can get up to $6,000. I was a very small, scrappy candidate, and I felt really comfortable with the little donations that I had, reusing them as best as I could. We have a voluntary reporting for this race, and I voluntarily submitted all of the information that I thought was pertinent. I did not know that I needed to talk about recycling the signs that I kept in my garage. I don't know. I'm just a little bit confused because I'll talk to people at the doors and they're hearing things that aren't true and they're scared. They're scared that we're not going to have nice things, but then they also are enjoying some of the things like going to Clyde. So we need to find a nice balance between scaring people and making them afraid and voting out of fear because they're hearing twisted truths, and then also acknowledging that many people love the downtown. They love going to the Chrysalis. They love living in the Juniper. They want to have a gas station here. Developing our community in a responsible way that's in harmony with nature, that is aligned with the mission and vision of CA, is going to be my #1 priority.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we've talked about a lot of very specific issues. There's going to be so many issues that come up that you can't possibly tell us how you're going to, vote or rule or how you're going to. I'd rather hear how you think about things, especially with respect. Bill and I have been working on the tot lots. A lot of people are excited about changing the tot lots. For example, there's going to be people who are not going to want to change the tot lot behind their house, and everybody else is going to want to. Or there's the Lake Halford Stream Restoration Project, or a lot of people don't want to tear the trees down, but maybe we need to for environmental reasons. I'm not saying we do. I don't know how I feel about that, but I want to know how you're going to deal with those situations where you can't get a consensus, and you're going to have to push through things to get progress and development.
Amy, you go first. Thank you for that question, Rebecca. So yes, I'm excited about the tot lots too. I'm also gonna go back to the education piece. I think the more people know the truth behind why the switches were made. So I thought you did a really good job of explaining why the materials would be used, why the tot lots would be located, where they're planned to be located, why we were picked as a pilot program. So the more I learned about it, the more I was excited. And I think those details everybody will be excited about. When it comes to stream restoration, if you walk your dogs or you go anywhere near streams, you can see there are a lot of trees in the water. Why do we choose to do what we do? Moving forward with stream restoration, that's going to rely on the experts and a lot of hard conversations moving forward. I think it's the board's responsibility through the villages and other means to stay in communication with community members so they understand why there is possible machinery behind their house, because it's scary. You don't want anything to change that can't be fixed again. I'm really excited that a lot of our dying trees are being replaced with saplings that are going to grow healthy and strong and not cause a danger to a person or property moving forward. So I think the education and communication are the two basic answers I have to your question, because when you're in the work and you get to hear all the details, I think it's incumbent upon all board members to then reach out and spread the word so that people can come in and ask questions if they have them and get clarity as needed.
Hey, Rebecca, that's a really great question. So thank you. And I know you guys did a lot of hard work on your presentation to the CA board, and I really appreciated that. Yeah, the tot lots is going to be a lot of fun, I think, because it's going to bring the community out and help us build connections. And I think Bill, when I talked to him, he has some great ideas about how to do that and how to actually build consensus within the community before we start to make changes. Because one of the things that I thought about for the tot lots was that, you know, when I was a little kid, you walked out the door and you told your mom, I'll be back by dark, right? I lived at the pool and I ran through the woods, through the streams, all that kind of stuff, rode my bike all over. And nowadays, kids don't really go anywhere unless their parents go with them. So I want to make sure that when kids walk out the door, like they can get to their tot lot without maybe having their mom and dad, because you can see that tot lot, right? So those are things that I was thinking about, like what works best for the kids and the moms and the dads. Most of the kids that I see at the tot lots are tot lots in Thunder Hill, as you know. Every single one of them has toys at it because they leave their toys behind so that they can come back again and play, and other kids come play with them. And when I walk around the neighborhood with my dog and talk to all the folks at the tot lots, they're all getting used. So it's a huge thing, but I do think we can build consensus there. And I think also like the stream restoration project, that's, you know, one of the reasons I was really galvanized to run was when I walked over and saw what had happened in Longfellow with the stream restoration project. And it was just gut wrenching to see where they had ripped out all the trees. And basically, I think what they tried to do is they tried to create a floodplain, but the creek is now, you know, it's not a healthy stream anymore, and it's actually caused more damage. And so I think, again, like with the tot lots, let's talk about the problem that we're trying to solve, make sure we get everybody on the same page with that. And then once we can do that, then we can work towards a consensus decision and we'll know how to move forward. But I think like for the stream restoration, making sure that we know what the experts are saying. The senior scientist at the Chesapeake Bay said about the current proposal for Long Reach, don't even touch the stream. That's the best thing that you can do for it.
I'd like to touch on a topic that we had not discussed, and those of us who've
Your name, please?
that is in place for another few more years, but just in case something does come up, there are those of us who have been here since, in my case, 1975. We love where we are. We want to be able to stay where we are, and we love to be able to have the benefits of that as well. So I'd love to hear your take on that, in case there's anything that is either current that needs to be discussed and looked at, or for the future.
So thank you very much for your question, Margaret. That is very close to my heart. My mom and dad are in the audience. They are aging in place. I oftentimes talk about how I hang out with a lot of octogenarians these days. So that's a hugely important point for me. I want to make sure that our seniors have as much access to what Columbia Association has to offer as our young people do, and everybody in between. I think our multi-generational community is one of the most healthy things that we can have, where I see the young kids, talking to the older people. My mom, similar to me, she walks her dog around the neighborhood. She gets to talk to all the little kids who haven't gone off to kindergarten yet, and they love to come out and give her dog a treat. My mom and dad both use the senior centers. My dad likes to go to the low vision support group. He also works out at the gym twice a week. So I want to make sure that that is all available and accessible for our seniors. And the aging in place tax credit, I think that's hugely important to make sure our seniors can stay in the community, because I think they offer a lot of value.
I agree with every single thing that Karen said. So I would feel the same way moving forward. I don't know how much is under the purview of the Columbia board. So I think it's important that I not make claims for things that I would not have any influence on moving forward. having continued programming and transportation and accessibility to senior programming, I think is something that we need to talk more and more about and hear from seniors themselves to see how they could better utilize CA spaces. But we have so many people who were founders in this community who raised their children and possibly grandchildren. We need to make it as supportive for them as possible. And I met with a lot of people, both for the delegate race and this time. We had great conversations on the front porch, and they are continually giving back to the community, want to be a part of everything. How can we support that at every stage of life? How can we ensure that people feel good about aging in place and really staying connected if they have mobility issues or anything else that CA could facilitate? So agree with Karen, and so good answer.
Anyone else?
You're up.
Sorry, after 8 o'clock. We haven't even gotten that one
Hi,
yet.
I'm
the Facebook, and I have a very open profile, and I often get teased that my Facebook is a PSA, public service announcement. So I like to share. I have curated my list to be really positive people in my community and beyond who want to make a difference for the next generation. So I like to share events that are coming up. I go to a lot of events so then I can even be in person and build relationships with people over time. I think it's really important to be available. So when you're embedded in the community in the way I'm at this point in my life, and I don't know that I always will be in the same fashion, but having a child in middle school, high school, having kids who are employees, living on a main thoroughfare, teaching at the only high school in Oakland Mills has offered me a lot of access to people that I'm not always going to have for the rest of my life. So I would like to dedicate this time to be of service, but I also want to create a new culture in the board so that people in the community feel like they would want to run. So they feel like they could serve the community and advocate for Oakland Mills at the meetings. That being said, right now, I think a lot of people think it's not positive. They don't want to serve on the board. People tease me about why I'm running. And I say, I want to be as professional and personal at the same time. And I want it to seem like a place that people would want to participate so that someone can come in after me and advocate in a similar fashion.
Yeah, can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry, I was listening to Amy's answer.
I do communicate.
Thank you. Social media is out there. Everyone's using it. I've been using Nextdoor a lot to communicate what I'm doing with my campaign because I know there's a lot of people on that. I've also used Facebook. I've been using emails to communicate with people. But the other things that I would really like to do, in addition to like a newsletter, is actually reach out to the community and have just casual conversations, meet up somewhere, have everybody around. Just what is the, talk about whatever the current issue is that's maybe bogging down the CA board and get resident input. I think that would be, some one-on-one conversations. People want to host something at their house, come over to my house, sit on my deck in the nice weather, enjoy the woods behind my house. Absolutely, come on over, talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm I'm open to communicating in whatever way works best for people. You know, Margaret brought up aging in place. Everybody can't just hop up, go somewhere, you know. One of the reasons we arrived early, because we knew we were gonna park in handicap space. We want to make sure we could get in, get settled. So if I have to come to you, I'm gonna come to you. I'm, you know, come to your door. I said Bill's door just the other day.
Anybody else?
Well, we're actually going to go to
Okay.
the online questions. So for those of you who are, have put your name in the chat box to ask a question, Sandy has written them down, and we're going to call on Susanna Sung,
And I'm gonna unmute her.
and Sandy will unmute you.
There's a lot of people here, so I have to find you. Okay, Suzanne. I think you are unmuted. So can you, we're going now to the online, so if everyone's gonna like not talking here, because we hope that we hear them well. If not, I will have them repeat. So here's our first question.
I'm sorry, it's all glitchy. Am I supposed to be saying something right now? Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Susanna Sung. I'm a resident of Talbot Springs. I've got a question directed, the first part of the question is directed to Amy, and then I'll do a little addendum there to Karen. So why did you decide to run for another elected office right after running for Senate delegate? And Karen, since you didn't run for state delegate, could you tell us, you've talked a lot about, the reasons why you're running. What is your primary reason for running then?
Which one? Fantastic. Clorox is not in a spray, but we have this that is in a spray and has bleach. Is this wet?
also that motion. Yeah, they can. That would probably be better.
Isabella, if you are there,
What? No.
Isabella or Margaret, I'm not sure which one of you are there, but if you can unmute, I apologize, but we aren't hearing anything, if in fact you are asking a question.
So my name is Isabella Clancy and I live in Talbot Springs. Do you think being a teacher will help you as a member of the CA Board of Directors?
So that's for me, I guess. What should I just go again?
Yeah,
Yes, I think that being a teacher for so long, you can make connections with the community in a really unique way. Thank you for your question. Being a teacher at Oakland Mills High School is really important because that is the hub of our community. So I'm really grateful that we have such an amazing school program, and a lot of the decisions that adults make impact kids. And even though not everybody likes teenagers all the time, I think they're the best. And I want to just take a second to tell you why. They have hope, they have optimism, and they are problem solvers. Our teenagers are looking to us to create safe spaces for them to take risks and learn new things. So when they see a teacher running for office, or they have questions and I'm considered a safe person in the building, even if I'm not their teacher, they know that they can stop by and ask me, and I'm gonna listen to their question and then, go find out the answers and come back. Because while I wanna connect with Jen, she's an adult and she has 3 teenagers. Those teenagers deserve answers too, especially when they're on our staff, but also when they're our customers. A lot of our kids spend a lot of money, theirs or ours, in these facilities. And so being connected to kids is invariably connecting us to their parents and the neighbors. Moving forward, I think being a teacher is great because I also have the awesome schedule where I have holidays. I'm on spring break right now. That gives me time to kind of get back into the community. A lot of events go through our school system, so I'm already plugged in there. And then of course, summer break, I'll have a chance to really devote a lot of time and attention to all of the connections that maybe are easier done around, I don't know, Stevens Forest Pool.
Yeah, I'll add something. Isabella, I love your question. Thank you for participating today. I think that's huge. I like to see young people participating. I am not a public school teacher, but I've always been teaching in one way or another. When I was much younger at a lifeguard, I was a swim instructor and I was a swim coach. And then I became a ski instructor for many years. And then I was a soccer coach here in Columbia for a very long time. In my job, I actually mentored a lot of undergrad interns who came to work for me. And that was one of the best experiences I had in my life. I really like working with young people. But as I said before, I like teaching all ages. So I've also had a multi-generational staff. And I like a good mix. I like a good mix of young, middle-aged, elderly, because everybody brings a good idea to the table, and their experiences and all that stuff really makes a difference. And I think most people should have the teacher mentality in them if they don't, but being a teacher is one of the greatest things that I think you can be. You're welcome.
Margaret Morrow, I don't see you here on the screen. If you're under a different name, can you ask your question? I think she's whether on her own or by the web, but she's not here. I've been looking, and she
was on there earlier.
Was here with her name earlier. But I have added to the chat box with the candidate's permission their emails. And so, and you can all get them after the meeting if you don't have them. So anyone that was online that didn't get to ask a question, they have both Karen and Amy's emails, and they have Brigida's email for general questions.
Yes, so that will conclude this portion of the forum. I'd like to thank Karen and Amy and everyone who attended. So as Sandy mentioned, the emails are in the chat box. This has been recorded, so it will be available for anybody who might say that they missed it or they wanted to see it. And again, that has been with both the candidate's permission and the election chair's okay as well. Just one quick thing before I allow the candidates to make their closing statements. Please look for your election newsletter in the mail and read the information regarding voting options thoroughly. And any voting questions, please feel free to call or email me at manager@oaklandmills.org. So without further ado, you each can give your closing remarks. And Amy will go first.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in this process. I think this is part of building community. Every step of this campaign, from writing a candidate statement to reaching out to the community and letting them know, has been a real valuable experience for me. I think the most valuable thing is door knocking, and I call it adult trick-or-treating, because when else do you get to go on other people's porches and knock? And I don't have any candy and they don't give me any candy, but there's still like a lot of sweet knowledge that's being shared. And I feel like most of us would agree that our community would be stronger if we spent more time together. And that's my jam. I really like bringing people together. I started the Scorpion Speaker Series a few years back during Black History Month at Oakland Mills High School. We bring people into the building, and I always tell kids, you don't have to look far to find excellence in Oakland Mills. I feel embarrassed if my Pennsylvania parents could hear me say this, but I bleed orange and black now, and I am like ridiculously in love with this community. I'm so grateful to my husband all those years ago when our youngest son was born, when who doesn't normally put his foot down, was like, I really got to show you this place. I really need to show you what it's about. We were coming here sometimes to see my in-laws, but we didn't really like tour everywhere. And I didn't look at it as a potential homeowners, from a potential homeowner's perspective, but I'm really glad that I did. And so to me, this is an extension of being part of a community. Sometimes you need to step up and you need to provide a service, which is going to meetings, listening with other kind, thoughtful people, and making decisions that are like I said earlier, nature and our.
Thank you for asking your questions. Thank you for listening to our answers. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who put the forum on today. My Columbia, thank God. It was a great place to grow up. A lot of my neighbors are here. A lot of my neighbors are online. I was that privileged group that had no knowledge about what a wonderful place we were growing up in. And playing with kids who didn't look like me. And that was right. They were my best friends, all of them. And we didn't realize till we went away to college what we were leaving behind. And we got to college and we had a huge eye-opening. We had no idea what kind of a bubble we had been growing up in. What a beautiful place this is to grow up in. It's multicultural, it's multi-generational. We have everybody here. Everybody is welcome. Jim Rouse said, everybody is welcome to live in Columbia. And that was a privilege. That was a privilege that so many of us, especially in my age group, hold that very near and dear to our hearts. I want to make sure that Columbia is around for the next 50 years and that kids get to have the experience that I have, that they grow up with perspectives that you don't necessarily see in the rest of the country. That we are building kids that are going to leave Columbia and go work in other states and have a great perspective. They're going to see human beings in this world. That's how they're going to judge each other. And that's what I want for the future of our residents. I want to make sure that we have our lakes, our streams, that everything is here for them, and that they get to have what I have, because it was wonderful. So thank you. I hope you vote for me. If you're going to vote in person, I look forward to seeing you at the polls on the 22nd.
All right, thank you very much. Concludes our forum, and frankly, a little pugilicious, but a pretty successful hybrid event.
Well done, Benita.